where a sergeant was killed reported 70 spear attacks on officers in a single year. Outside prison, there are those with martial arts training who prefer the edged instrument over other weapons because of its silence. It never jams, never has to be reloaded, and it doesn't leave a ballistic residue. Plus, they understand that even for violent crimes, our liberal courts tend to be more lenient with knife offenders than with criminals who use guns. Unfortunately, a suspect's type may not always be obvious to you as a warning sign. Especially when nothing seems out of the ordinary, and when low light level or fast action make it difficult to see his weapon. These problems, of course, are multiplied when an edged weapon offender has backup. To overcome these suspect advantages, it is crucial that you read danger cues in behavior and body language.
Hey, you're blocking the alley. What's the problem?
Certain movements leave little doubt about intent. This represents imminent danger for sure. But many officers who become knife victims are so startled by a sudden charge that they freeze up. Sometimes you see an offender move to throw an edged weapon. The truth is, very few people can throw accurately, especially in the real world, where targets move. Also, a trained knife fighter will rarely throw away his weapon. Unless he has more that you can't see. A third type of behavior usually occurs as a defensive reaction by an offender. The taunting gesture.
Get away from here! Get out of my house! Drop the razor! Drop it!
What he's telling you is, don't invade my space or I'll attack you.
Show me your hands, now!
One of the most dangerous forms of concealment is palming. This hides the edged weapon while still positioning it for immediate use. If you can't see a suspect's palms or the straightened tips of all of his fingers and thumbs, that's a danger cue. Another clue to assessing threat potential is how the subject is holding the edged weapon once it becomes visible. A knife held point first with a loose grip may telegraph an attempt at an underhand or slinging throw. The saber hold is for throwing overhand and is generally even less effective. But it is more powerful and may cause injury even though the knife doesn't stick. The ice pick or Hollywood grip is how many officers envision being attacked. Either a novice or an expert can use it effectively. The ice pick grip is hard to defend against and can even be delivered like this. The underhand grip lets an attacker slash as well as stab. He can hold the weapon in the hand furthest from you to protect it from disabling strikes. Then his forward hand can block or grab your arm to clear the way to the target. Another popular position is the diagonal underhand grip, which shows even more skill because the knife's edge can be rotated to cut in backhand as well as forehand movements. Many targets are vulnerable to this technique. From the femoral artery in the groin to the arms, ribs, chest, the neck, and back. A very skilled knife fighter might use the reverse ice pick grip. Here the cutting edge is held to the outside for an effective forehand slash, which is followed by backhand stabs. The crucial tactic for your buying time to assess a suspect and to protect yourself against an edged weapon you don't immediately see is this: control distance. Many officers, like the one on the left, really believe if they're close to the action, they're in control. But this attitude disregards the proxemics of the situation. That's the relationship between distance and the threat level produced by the weapon present. A common problem whether there's one officer involved or the whole shift. What about officers responding on the street below this offender? Are they too close to his gun threat? They're ignoring the concept of the reactionary gap, the distance you need from a potential threat to defend yourself if an attack is launched. For firearms assaults, a reactionary gap can be a half mile or more if good cover isn't available. To defend yourself against assaults from hands and feet, you need a reactionary gap of about 10 feet. Most officers think that's good enough for edged weapons too. But this unrehearsed training exercise shows just how fast a knife offender can shrink your reactionary gap. Here, officers have been told to investigate suspicious circumstances at night in a warehouse and react to what they find. At first glance, this officer's distance from the suspect looks safe enough. But an attacker can easily cover this distance faster than most officers can draw their guns. Remember, when you close the distance between yourself and the suspect, do so only by purposeful decision. In fact, at close distances, your only realistic option for controlling a suspect is empty-hand tactics. Yet when officers are asked how they would control a knife attacker, they usually say, "I'd shoot him," forgetting that they may not have time to in reality. Here, still unrehearsed, is what really happens when officers assume they can automatically use deadly force against a knifer. They stand their ground and try to draw. Or try to draw and disengage simultaneously. Or even worse, try to draw, fall down, and shoot. And they lose. Because time and distance work for the offender and against the officer. With a reactionary gap of about 1 foot or less, it's impossible for you to react quickly enough to even touch your holstered sidearm once the attack begins. At about 5 feet, the average officer can't even get his sidearm unholstered. Unless your sidearm or baton is already out, you'll have to rely on physical control at 5 feet or less. At about 10 feet, you might get your sidearm out, but you probably won't get a shot off. A suspect with a knife can close 7 paces and deliver deadly force in less than 1 1/2 seconds. For the average officer to deliver 2 rounds against an attacker who starts moving at 10 feet, the sidearm must already be drawn and ready to shoot. At about 15 feet, your chances get a little better if you're alert, anticipate danger, and are skilled with your equipment. But to deliver 2 rounds center of mass, your hand would already have to be on your sidearm when the attack begins. Tests with hundreds of officers reveal that in most cases, a minimum reactionary gap of 21 feet is required to react and deliver at least 2 rounds and to have enough time to move out of the attacker's path. And in certain other situations, you'll need more distance. Spring-loaded knives, like the ballistic knife, require a reactionary gap of about 40 feet. Blowguns have been known to be accurate at 70 feet.
What's the problem?
There is no problem here. Well, you can go. Nobody called.
Let me see your hands.
Hey, just go. There's nothing wrong here.
Let me see your hands and step from the porch.
With this, an offender can control at least 150 feet.
05 to dispatch.
Incidentally, if you doubt that exotic edged weapons are ever used, here's a guy who underestimated the effective range of a hunting arrow. It penetrated 4 inches right through his heart. The rule remains, distance is your best defense unless adequate cover is available. Once you see the attacker, create a reactionary gap by enforcing voice commands or by using the unexpected, or consider full-scale disengagement. If he's charging and you're on foot, sidestepping unexpectedly will force him to slow down. When you can control the reactionary gap, you create time by creating distance. Time to compute your force options, and time to communicate with the potential attacker.
Here's my license. Why don't you come get it?
Drop the knife.
Fuck you.
I said, drop the knife.
Oh, okay. Just kidding. Sorry.
Now back away. Turn away from me.
When you can communicate, try to deliver your commands from behind cover and listen for cues to the suspect's psychology.
Officer, he's the one that stole the meat.
Hold it. Get away from the truck. What do you got under your coat?
Some meat, man.
Put the meat on the truck. Step away from the truck towards me. I'm gonna need some identification.
Here's your ID right here.
835, give me a backup man with a knife, black male. Tate's Food, 27 and National.
Throw down the knife.
Hey, man, I ain't throwing this knife down. This is special to me, man.
Throw down the knife.
Nah, this knife cost me a bunch of money, man. 350 bucks. It's a Vietnam commemorative knife.
All right, then just place the knife down slowly. It won't get scratched. Slowly place the knife down.
All right, I'll do that. I'll mess up my knife, though.
Step away from the knife towards the auto. And turn around with your arms extended up. Bend over and extend them back. Stay like that and don't move.
Driver, exit your vehicle with your keys and step to the front of my squad car. Do it now.
Sometimes you can use a barrier as a precaution when communicating, even though no edged weapon is visible. On a vehicle stop, where your assessment tells you not to approach, you can position the violator so your patrol car will hamper an attack.
Do you have a driver's license? Can I see it, please?
You can still see his vehicle and maintain good balance while he stretches across with the license.
No, I'm from out of town. I'm just here visiting.
Your partner can monitor the passenger side.
And don't touch me. I'm so sick of your shit.
Anytime an edged weapon is visible, take advantage of your immediate surroundings. Walls, pillars, or other obstacles that can strengthen your reactionary gap.
Lady, drop the knife.
I'm not dropping.
Drop it right now.
I'm not
I said
dropping.
to drop it. If you have a problem, we'll talk about it. I want you to move over that way. All right, put that knife
No, I
down.
put
If
nothing
you have
down.
a
I'm
problem,
so
we
sick of
will
that.
talk about it. Put the knife down now.
Fuck it.
This man threatened to kill his wife, himself, and officers if they came near. Using the porch railing as a barrier, officers safely talked him into giving up. This man was peeved about the serving of a warrant. He started throwing shards of glass. The officer avoided injury by simply moving under the canopy, while other officers covered at a distance.
Squad 762 to 762W. Be advised, I'm in position across from Paul's Jeweler on the northwest corner.
762W 10-4. I'm set up in the southeast corner.
When moving in for an arrest, be tactical in closing your reactionary gap. Remember that in half of all officer fatalities, the death weapon was concealed prior to assault.
Police officer, don't move!
A sharp offender is going to be watching and waiting for you to make a tactical error. Whatever your arrest technique, assume that any suspect could have weapons and try to use them at any time.
I want you to turn around real slowly. Start turning.
Set him up for handcuffing that's free of palmed weapons.
Keep going. Keep turning. Stop. Now put your left hand on the top of your head with the palm up. Put your right hand back. Bring it back. Thumb down. Keep it coming. Now I want you to start walking backwards towards me, real slowly.
Thorough searching after handcuffing is crucial. Develop a consistent pattern that you follow each time to assure that all areas accessible to the suspect are checked.
Stop.
Every time.
Don't move.
While you're handcuffing, keep his hands lifted away from his waist and maintain control of them while you search.
Back up nice and easy.
Remove any hat and visually inspect his hair without touching it.
Spread your legs a little bit.
Then start at the collar and move down. You want to touch lightly, then pinch and crimp clothing to best prevent being punctured or cut by sharp objects.
I got a knife.
If you do find something, acknowledge it to be sure your partner is aware that the danger level has just gone up. Remember, edged weapons can be hidden in seams as well as pockets. Pull down any jacket to help restrain his arms. Then recheck his upper body to search his inner clothing. Undo his belt to make searching his waistband easier, and check the belt and buckle for concealed weapons. Because some suspects may booby-trap their clothing with fish hooks or razor blades, look before you touch. And consider running a mini baton or pen over hard-to-see areas first. When checking a limb, be sure you search all surfaces and push up clothing when possible to see what may be strapped to the body.
You got another knife.
Before transport, consider the option of removing and searching suspect shoes, especially boots and socks. Edged weapons are sometimes hidden even in secret compartments under the sole, or in the heel. Wallets and purses can easily conceal edged weapons as well. If you find one weapon, keep searching. People who like edged weapons often like lots of them. This is a good point to remember when asking a subject for ID, as well as when you're searching. What's the most dangerous weapon? The one you don't see.
I got a blade here.
All these hidden weapons were taken off a suspect in the booking area after he was searched on the street.
Come on, little piggy. Where we going, man?
As you escort the suspect, maintain physical control to defeat any hostile move.
In the car.
Okay.
As his resistance mounts, slip your hand behind his arm and bend his wrist.
Straighten up. Hey, man, you got me. Big man, yeah.
Hook his shoulder near the neck with your other hand to pull him toward you, off balance, and exert enough pressure on his wrists to bring him up on his toes. This procedure will minimize his chances of disarming you and escaping.
Hey, go nowhere.
Sometimes the arrest process isn't so simple. Getting to the point where you can arrest and search the suspect becomes much more complicated, for example, if he goes mobile at some point. This EDP with a knife in his right hand is standing in front of his home. Officers are keeping their distance and trying to talk him down. As he becomes more agitated, 3 of the officers draw their sidearms, trying to contain him in a semicircle. Now he starts running down the sidewalk. The officer on the left waits with his baton. At the corner, the suspect still holds his knife in the ice pick grip and threatens to kill. Is the officer at a safe distance? He decides not to shoot, but would he have been justified in shooting? Or would you have waited and continued talking? 7 officers chased the suspect on foot. Here they circle the suspect again. He broke free and ran 2 more blocks, then crashed through the front window of a house. When he started attacking a resident inside, officers fired 6 shots, which finally stopped him. When you're threatened with an edged weapon, your appropriate force response ideally begins with your sidearm ready. Edged weapons are instruments of deadly force, and whenever possible, you must be prepared to use your ultimate force option if necessary. Whether you actually have to use deadly force will depend on the suspect's action. Think in terms of a 3-part formula. Intent. Do the suspect's words and actions convince you that he means to kill or cause serious or lethal bodily harm to you or someone else? Does the threat here seem imminent? Yes, it does. Another element that must be present is a weapon. Some instrument with which he is capable of carrying out his deadly intent. That's present here, too. A third element is a delivery system. Does he have the means of getting the impact of that edged weapon from him to you to fulfill his intent? Here, the suspect is certainly activating his delivery system. When intent, weapon, and delivery system are present, and the threat is imminent, you are justified in using deadly force.
Hi, you called?
Yes, sir. I'm the manager. There's a woman getting raped in apartment 24 right now. This is a passkey. I don't want to get involved in it. There's a couple of doors on the right-hand side.
Room 24?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll check it out. We'll let you know what happens.
Thanks, sir.
Police! Hello, police!
Of course, you'll want to preclude or eliminate the possibility of using some lower level of force. You want to be certain of your target identification and try to achieve target isolation so no third parties are needlessly endangered.
Holy shit.
Lord Satan, protect me.
Hello?
Lord
Lady?
Satan, show me thy power.
Lady, are you okay?
Hail, Satan.
What's going on in here?
Shield me, Satan. Shield me from all the
Lady?
bad and the good. Hail, Satan. Hail, Satan.
Lady?
Be good.
Rick, she's got a knife. Drop the knife!
When you do have to use your firearm, remember this acronym, SMENS. You shoot to stop the attacker's threatening action. You move out of the attacker's path. You evaluate whether the attacker has been incapacitated. You neutralize the continuing threat if it has not been stopped.